Welcome to Mystery Date, where we dive into the weird, the wild, and the downright puzzling. While our podcast is primarily for entertainment with plenty of laughs along the way, we occasionally discuss serious and sensitive topics. Some content may not be suitable for all listeners, so discretion is advised.
There's a stretch of highway in southeastern Texas where the roadside holds dark secrets. A place where young girls vanished without a trace, where bones surfaced in shallow marshes, and where justice has always felt just out of reach. Locals call it the Texas Killing Fields. Spanning the desolate corridor between Houston and Galveston, Interstate 45 has earned a sinister nickname, the Highway to Hell. And we're not talking rock music, folks. Since the 1970s, more than 30 young women and girls have gone missing or been found murdered within a 50-mile radius of this road. Their cases span decades, countries, and generations of grieving families. Yet, very few have been solved. Most remain cold, but not forgotten. This episode, we're exploring the history, the horrors, and the ongoing hunt for answers in one of America's most haunting unsolved mysteries, the Texas Killing Fields of I-45.
I'm Christian.
I'm Kate. Welcome to Mystery Date.
It's date night, meaning we get to talk about all things mysterious and weird in our world.
This season is called Into the Woods, and it involves mysteries surrounding woods, jungles, and forests all around our world.
Tonight's mystery is all about the Texas Killing Fields of I-45.
Get comfy, grab your favorite drink, and let's start the show. That's good.
That is good. Kate made us a little spiked lemonade. It's pretty delicious.
Yeah, well, we put some limoncello in there.
Yeah, some elderflower
and some
liquor.
elderflower liquor.
And
then it's just strawberry lemonade from Aldi.
Yeah, that's real good.
You know, we love our Aldi.
Yeah, everything we get is from Aldi.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Had you ever heard anything about this before? I'll start like that. You probably have of this one. This one might be up your alley.
I have seen that there is a documentary on Netflix called The Texas Killing Fields, but I'm pretty sure that's one of the few that I haven't watched because it's like a whole series. I don't think it's just one movie. I'm usually here for the one and done documentaries. I only will get into a series if it's short or if it's extremely compelling to me.
Yeah.
But honestly, I've seen so many. I could have seen that one too and just forgotten.
That's fair. That's fair.
So I've sort of heard of it, but not really. I don't know too much about it.
Well, it would make sense. I haven't really seen anything on the Netflix one. Maybe after we record this episode, we should dive into it a little
maybe
bit.
Go check it out. I'm pretty sure from all I know about it is that it's basically just a popular body dumping area.
Yes.
But there's probably a lot more to it than that, putting it that simply.
What we're covering tonight is essentially what you said, a body dumping area. I'm not trying to put any light on the situation or make it any less of what's happening. I mean, it's terrible for all the families and people involved, but there are other stories connected to this that are almost more popular and famous in the true crime sphere, and this kind of ties some of those together. If you've ever heard of the Calder Road murders, that's one of them that comes up a lot in the true crime sphere. But again, this is more or less a connection of all of these different cases and scenarios that are happening around these areas off of Interstate I-45.
Yeah, so we're not discussing one case here. We're discussing a coincidental connection between many cases.
Yep, which a lot of them are unsolved.
And that's another creepy coincidence between them.
It really is.
Everybody picks this area to dump their crime scene evidence or the bodies or whatever. And no one ever knows who did what crime or if it's the same person or if it's multiple. I mean, some creepy heebie-jeebie stuffs.
Yeah, and especially when you tie into the fact that even though there were separate and other alleged people tied into this, their MO and their victim profile.
Yes.
That's a good way of saying that. Their victim profile was essentially the same across the board. So even though you have these different men, this different time, these different scenarios, they're all sharing.
They're all going
very similar
after,
crimes.
yeah, they're all going after young girls and women and around the same area, or at least leaving behind the remnants of the crime in this same area.
So let's begin.
Remind me not to move to Texas.
not shitting on Texas, but if this is going on there, yeah, I'm cool in Ohio. No, just I'm kidding. Before anyone comes at us, I know Ohio has its issues.
Everywhere has its crime. Everywhere has its nice neighborhoods. Everywhere has its trashy neighborhoods.
It's a little bit of everything everywhere.
There's pros and cons no matter where you go, people. There's good people and there's bad people. Let's move on.
So let's begin. The story of the Texas killing fields doesn't begin with a single crime. It begins with kind of a feeling. A growing dread, if you want to call it that. It was a whisper along the coastal roads of Texas that something terrible was happening and no one seemed to be able to stop it. It was the early 1970s. We're going back there. We spent a decent amount of time there in this podcast already, so you could put those jean jackets on, hop on your bright-colored motorcycle, get ready for some nice beach days.
There was a lot of crime in the 70s to cover.
Yes, America was still grappling with the fallout of the 1960s, and that included Vietnam, the civil rights movement, and a culture changing faster than anyone could really process at the time.
Yeah.
I mean,
society couldn't keep up with itself.
No, it was such a striking era, especially, I'm not a historian or anyone that studied that on a collegiate or even really professional level, but looking back on it now at my age, I feel like as a kid, I always saw the 70s as just like a kind of a dirty, I don't know, maybe just not a great time to be around.
Yeah.
At least that's how I saw it as a kid. But now...
I feel like as kids, we were kind of shown or taught or we perceived, however you want to put it, it felt like the 70s was nothing but disco and hippies. And then the older you get, the more you realize the world has never been that simple. Sure, those things existed in the 70s, but there was much more than that.
But you got to think, this time in history is just so interesting because we're on that rapid modernization kind of kick since World War I. Where now World War II is over. It's kind of behind us. Yes, the Vietnam War happened, but even in the 70s, that part is starting to be in the past. The Cold War, we're kind of feeling that, but the limits of that are lessening. So this is a society that's finally able to take all of these modern inventions that war has thrown at us and make them recreational. Or at least
them commonplace functional items.
Yes, and so they're enjoying the benefit of, I hate to say that because millions died, but it's a fact that when war happens, humanity progresses.
Yep, technology evolves, and then in the aftermath, when the battlefields aren't an active war zone anymore, it's like, hey, what if every household had a TV?
Phone to communicate with each other.
What if we started implementing some of these things in a more commonplace way?
So I do think it's interesting in that fact. It's like, okay, this is the first time that you're really getting people taking away from we're in survival mode, we're scavenging everything in the country for the better of the war, to let's start looking at humanity and what we can do socially inside the country to kind of expand and build on this modern age. And it is such a weird, cool time to look back on it now, where it's like, yeah, their cars were carbureted and junky and ran on inefficient lead gas, but it was a progressing time, and it was so fascinating.
Well, especially when you look at, like you said, not just on the technology side of things, but like civil rights. There was so much happening so quickly in society and in culture and in science.
And I'm not saying that the civil rights movement shouldn't have happened any earlier. It definitely should have, and those rights should have been given to those certain people way earlier than it happened, but you got to put it in perspective a little bit to where it's like, look, World War I happened, World War II happened almost immediately after that, the Great Depression, before that, the Civil War. Like, it had just been an onslaught back to back to back where you had all of these generations raising kids that were going to war, and then their kids would go to war, and you had shattered family. Like, it was, nothing could really get done progressively in the country besides feeding the war machine. So it gave
you're
a
right.
right.
The 70s was kind of like the first time in a long time of human history where it was like, hey,
We can chill.
we can calm down for
At
a
least a
bit
little bit.
and
Like, I
like
understand
maybe
tensions.
enjoy life, maybe actually like progress individually and
Yeah.
it's not such a global scale of everything for just a minute.
Yeah, just a breather,
just
because
like a
shit's going to get
couple-
real
yeah.
again pretty soon.
Oh yeah, don't worry. The Cold War is coming.
Well, the Cold War is happening.
Well-
After this is going to be the Iraqi War and all of this
Yeah,
stuff. In the
9/11.
Yeah, it's going to get real murky.
Good times in the world of the
Um,
humans.
So the 70s were a pretty bright time in comparison.
Yeah.
But in a small town in Texas along the Gulf Coast, life felt quieter, a little slower, and a little safer. That was until it wasn't.
Bum bum bum.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
On August 4th, 1971, two best friends, Rhonda Renee Johnson and Sharon Shaw, Rhonda was age 14 and Sharon was age 13, they walked along the beaches of Galveston, Texas, talking about boys, music, fashion, just all the classic things you would at this age and at this time. They were bright, full of life, and completely unaware that they were about to become the first known victims in this long chain of disappearances and murders that would span half a century. They vanished that day, without a trace. Weeks turned to months, flyers were posted, rumors spread. Were they runaways? Had they drowned? Had someone taken them? It wasn't until early 1972 that fragments of their bodies were found in a marshy bayou. A human skull, a jawbone, and hair. It was Rhonda and Sharon. But there were no answers about who had done this to them or why. Later that same year, Debbie Ackerman and Maria Johnson, both 15 years old, disappeared. They were last seen hitchhiking, a common practice in those days, even for teenagers. And witnesses described a white van pulling up, and the girls simply climbed in without really seeming too much of a commotion.
Not the stereotypical white van.
Well, you know, it's a stereotype for a reason. I hate to even say it, but
Ugh.
2 days later, their bodies were found floating in Turner's Bayou. They had been bound and shot. One was weighted down with concrete. Whoever did this had tried to hide them, but it was not well enough.
Oh my God.
And we're jumping around kind of quick here, because like I said, this is pretty much the prologue.
Yeah.
This is the lead up. If you watch some of the documentaries, you won't even hear about some of these girls because of how much of this stuff is piling
there's
up.
so
And
many different cases and
so if I covered everything, this episode would be 14 parts. Every single girl could have a whole episode devoted to them, and they really should, at least just to give
maybe
voices on
maybe
this.
that's what the Netflix one was about, and that's why I'm like, that seems like a lot of episodes.
That's probably
like,
why. Yep.
It's just it goes over every individual case.
Which we really should have watched that. And
Yeah.
it's probably on us that we didn't watch it before this. But I also kind of like to maintain my own research and just look into things before I full on watch it. So I was aware of it.
I like going into these a little bit blind and hearing the story from you and
Yes.
getting a genuine reaction.
And then kind of.
And then also, you don't want us watching a Netflix documentary and then just regurgitating that back to you.
No,
You want to hear
no.
our version of the story.
And how we researched it. And I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
better or worse, but it's different. And that's
And
why
then,
you're
yeah,
here.
later we can go watch the other one and we can all compare notes in the comments section.
Also enjoy my potato chip socks. Moving on. After that came Colette Wilson, age 13, Kimberly Pitchford, age 16, and Gloria Gonzalez, age 19. And there were others as well. This disturbing pattern emerged where young girls and women disappeared along or near the I-45 corridor between Houston and Galveston exclusively. Many were found dumped in desolate areas, like I said, bayous, canals, oil fields, sometimes clothed, sometimes not, but they were always dead. By the mid-70s, parents in the area were rightfully terrified. I mean, I can't imagine I gotta cut that. You don't own a daughter.
Well, back then.
No, it was just the 70s.
I joke.
But yeah, if I had a daughter at that time, I can't imagine hearing about all this stuff on the news and just being like, yeah, you can go out with your friends or whatever.
They're like, nope, I'm coming too. You can go to the beach and I will be 10 feet behind you with my shotgun.
I was about to say, that's the low-key, I'm not going to put any politics on it, but that's the low-key good thing about being in Texas is at least if you're a nervous mother, you can strap up and defend. However you want to take that, that's a benefit in my eyes.
Listen, stories like this are the reason I think more women need to be strapped.
100%.
Maybe fewer men.
And learn how to use it. I'm not saying get a gun.
Oh yeah, don't just get a gun and
how...
be careful, be safe, take a class, learn your shit. But I'm telling you, man,
at least mace.
It's like,
carry mace.
Yeah.
Definitely like just something.
There's way too many true crime stories out here about women going missing or having horrendous things happening to them.
Yes,
so.
Even if you're a guy, I mean, I'm not a big guy.
Yeah,
if someone comes to rob me, I'm not going to be able to stop them. If I don't have anything and they're angry, I'm dead.
No,
like,
and it is true. Guys are victims too, and I don't think that's talked about very much, and it should be. Like, just you got to be careful out there.
Defend yourself.
You got to be careful out there. Don't go get into creepy white vans by the side of the bayou.
No white vans ever.
No white vans.
Unless you own it. And if you own it, why?
Yeah. Wrap it with a different color, please.
So like I said, by the mid-70s, parents in the area were terrified and teenagers were warned to not walk alone, not to hitchhike, and not to talk to strangers.
And not only don't walk alone, apparently pairs of two aren't enough either if you're young girls.
Yeah.
Because the first few that went missing were groups.
Well, at least pairs.
Yeah, they were pairs, but they were young. They were 14, they were 13, they were 15. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Even the buddy system wasn't enough.
No, someone out there was doing something sick.
Yeah, you need a group or a daddy with a shotgun.
Mm-hmm. This fear couldn't stop what was happening, unfortunately, in Texas, and it just continued to spread. In 1974, Brooks Bracewell, age 12, and Georgia Gear, age 14, vanished after visiting a convenience store. Again, just going to a convenience store. Hey, Mom, can I go get some snacks? Yeah, here's a few bucks.
I mean, how many times did we run to the convenience store 2 blocks away growing up in a small town? Like
it's something you always do.
All the time, every day. It'd be like, yeah, after school, I'm going to go stop at the convenience store and then walk home with my snacks.
Police once again believed that they were runaways, so there was no true urgency at first. There was no immediate search. But 2 years later, parts of Brooks' body were found in a culvert. But investigators didn't realize it was her until 1981, 5 years after her parents had buried an empty casket. Her friend Georgia would have been found nearby as well, but their killer was never found. During this time, a graffiti message was scrawled on the overpass along I-45 that said, "You are now entering the cruel world." And it wasn't wrong.
Okay, that's ominous as fuck.
Yeah.
That's like from a zombie apocalypse movie.
So like people were catching on. Like it wasn't just a random string.
Okay,
people knew about this.
I'm sure that it wasn't one of the killers who did that, because that would they're clearly smart enough to be getting away with these crimes over and over again.
Well, smart enough. I don't
Well,
yeah. No, I know what you mean though.
You know what I mean. Like I don't want to just assume that the killers are all that prideful and impulsive that they're like, I'm gonna go spray paint a warning about my killings. Now, to be fair, some of them might be. They are often narcissists and like to check back on like if they're in the news and stuff. Like, who knows? But like my brain canon, my head canon theory is that whoever's doing these murders was just like, this is going to be so clever. You are now entering my cruel world.
Yeah, I think whoever was writing this was more or less just probably a teenager that read
probably
about these.
Somebody who was like, we live in dark times, man.
Yes. But again, it wasn't wrong.
Yeah, I mean, what a town to live in at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine you're driving home from work or school every day or something, and like that's your route home every time you're about to get off the freeway on your exit. It's like, oh, entering the cruel world.
Oh, that's terrible.
Huh.
So even as families mourned and buried their children, the police had few answers. Forensics was still in its infancy, and DNA testing was decades away. So many of the victims were of working class backgrounds, girls whose disappearance didn't really make national news. The cases weren't always taken seriously, and some were just written off as runaways. Others were simply filed away with a question mark and a case number, never to be looked at again. Behind the scenes, though, the truth was taking shape. Someone or multiple people was using the empty fields and forgotten back roads of southeast Texas as a hunting ground. And the killers were getting away with it. There was no task force, no coordinated investigation. Each department from Galveston to League City to Houston handled their own cases separately without communicating. Patterns went unnoticed, and suspicions fell apart and leads dried up. What should have been a unified response became a scattered and fractured mess. In hindsight, the signs were all there. You had a similar victim profile, young, brown-haired girls, last seen alone, usually walking to a store or heading somewhere familiar. Their remains often found in similar terrain, like a shallow water, brush, or sand, and they were in remote areas where someone had to know where this was and how to hide a body. But in the 1970s, these were just dots on the maps and no one had connected them yet. Not publicly and not officially. And while the killings slowed for a while, heading into the late 1970s, the horror was far from over. In fact, the most infamous discoveries, those that would finally earn the area its dark name, hadn't even happened yet. The Texas killing fields were just beginning. So that leads us to the Calder Road murders. This is the real beginning of the Texas killing fields in a lot of people's eyes, but you had all of this stuff happening in the beforehand. That it was just basically, like I said, going unconnected because you had all these police departments not communicating. So it all culminates into this. By the time the 1980s arrived, the fear along the I-45 corridor had quieted somewhat. Fewer bodies were turning up, and some thought maybe the nightmare had passed, that the disappearances of the previous decade were a grim chapter that is now closed. But the silence didn't mean safety. It just meant no one had found the bodies yet. Just off Calder Road in League City, Texas, about a mile from Interstate 45, there sat a forgotten piece of land. It was unremarkable on the surface, a patch of rural property with overgrown grass, scattered trash, rusted oil tanks, and a little else. Nearby was a horse ranch, and beyond that, only silence. No cameras, no streetlights, and for years, no reason for anyone to go walking into the brush. Except for one man, or maybe more than one. In April 1984, something strange happened. A local family's dog ran off, as dogs often do, but when it returned, it was carrying something in its mouth.
Oh, good.
A human skull.
Good boy.
Yeah, can you imagine taking our dogs out, letting them loose for a little bit, and them coming back with that?
Oh, good boy. You did it. You found him. Guess let's call the cops now and let them know.
Yeah, I don't even know how you proceed.
Where did where did you find this boy? Can you show us?
Can you lead us back to where you got this?
Meanwhile, it's just somebody's household dog. It's not like it was the police canine who tracked that down. So yeah, it's like, how are you gonna find where he found it? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
Dude, yeah, and that dog's owner was probably like, what in the hell?
We joke, this is a comedy podcast too, so that's why we added it in here, but I'm just imagining, like, you're running late, you got something to do, the dog comes back and they have a skull in your mouth, and like, a little bit of me would be like, God damn it, I don't know.
No, other dog owners, they'll get it. Because it's always when you're running late for work and you're like, no, I already was late this week. Like, they're going to be on my ass if I'm late.
I can't tell them my dog found a skull. They won't believe that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, come on. You realize just how thin that thread you're hanging on by truly is.
Really, yeah. The discovery of the skull led to a shallow grave, barely covered by soil and weeds. The remains belonged to Heidi Villarreal Fay. I hope I said that somewhat right. A 25-year-old cocktail waitress who had vanished in October 1983. She had last been seen using a payphone at a nearby convenience store, and her friends thought maybe she'd just skipped town, run into trouble, or been picked up by someone she maybe knew. No one imagined that she'd been dumped so close to home, left to rot in a field where no one would think to look. The police combed the area, but no other remains were found, at least not then. So that was in 1983. In 1986, 2 teenage boys were out riding dirt bikes in that same field, and they came across a human skeleton. This skeleton belonged to Laura Miller. She was only 16 years old. Laura had gone missing in September 1984, less than a year after Heidi. She too had been last seen at the very same convenience store. She walked there from home to use the payphone. The family couldn't afford to have a phone at home at the time, kind of like how we said, that's a new thing to have it at your home. But when she went to use that payphone, she never came back. Her father, Tim Miller, had begged police to search the Calder Road field after Heidi was found there, and he just had a gut feeling. He just knew that that was where Laura had to be. But authorities dismissed him, said he was being emotional, and said they'd already looked. They hadn't, clearly. Now, almost 2 years later, the worst had been confirmed. Laura's body had been there all along, exposed to the elements, no more than a few hundred feet from where Heidi had been found.
You know what my least favorite common thread of almost all true crime is?
I know where this is going. Yep.
The damn cops
Yep.
are always dropping the ball.
Oh, yeah. The one podcast that I started listening to, I mean, I listened to Two Hot Takes, which, if anyone listening here, love that podcast.
Shout out.
But they also do, Morgan joined another podcast. I can't remember the name of the other co-host. I'm so sorry. But it's called Clues. And they started doing this thing called it starts a botched board, where like anytime the investigators will like botch something, they put it on like a tally and keep mark of it through that. I'm like, that's literally though, you have to do that in these cases because.
And like, you got to take our criticism with a grain of salt because it's not like we're professional detectives and forensic analysts and things like that. Like it's not like we know what we're doing in that realm either.
No.
Like we can criticize and we can judge, but it's not that we would do any better. But there are some times out here where I be watching documentaries and I'm like, okay, I could have done better. Like, come on.
You're like, just talk first off. I mean, these cities are like, yes, I know Texas is a big place. It's bigger than some countries.
Yes,
in the
and
world.
Jurisdiction.
Yes,
but like,
just fucking talk.
Communicate.
Like if you have these, all of these victim profiles are so damn similar, and the same thing is happening across these towns. It's like,
sure, it's a different town, but it's like one town over. It's a mile difference. Like you are the same area.
Yes.
It's crazy to me that it takes so many crimes to happen before it will become looked at on a collective or on a statewide level. But this isn't the only case where stuff like that has happened.
This isn't the only case we're going to talk about. The horror didn't stop there. Near Laura's remains, detectives discovered another set of bones, badly decomposed and unrecognizable. A second victim. She had no ID, no missing persons report to match, and they just simply called her Jane Doe. She would remain nameless for the next 33 years. Then, in 1991, the field claimed one more secret. This time, it was horseback riders, cutting across the land, who spotted something unusual in the grass. Another body, another woman, like the others, dumped and left to decay. No purse, no ID, no idea who she was, and the police named her Janet Doe. 4 women, 1 field, all discovered by chance. Each had been killed and hidden in the same isolated spot just off a major freeway. It wasn't buried deep, it wasn't elaborate, but it did work. Because unless someone happened upon that right piece of ground, no one would have known what lay beneath their feet. It's hard to overstate how close these victims were to civilization. You could see the gas station lights from the edge of the field. A mile away, people were just pumping gas, grabbing coffee, and heading to work, completely unaware that 4 women were lying in shallow graves just over the brush line. For a long time, this area was known only to locals, to dirt bikers, oil workers, and the occasional passerby. But After the second and third bodies were found, the legend of the Texas killing fields began to crystallize. This one field, this one patch of land, was no longer just an overgrown lot. It was now a graveyard. One used over and over by someone who knew how well it worked. And maybe they still did. Investigators began to wonder, were these murders connected? The similarities were too strong to ignore this time. Same dump site, same rough time frame, and same rough cause of death. Though decomposition did make some autopsies difficult, but none of the women had been deeply buried, and no effort had been made to protect them from discovery, really. Whoever did this came here in the dead of night, maybe more than once, and left behind a body each time. So was it the same killer, the same route, the same comfort zone? The possibility terrified the public and infuriated the families. The most vocal, by far, was Laura Miller's father, Tim Miller, the one who outspoke at the police in the first time. His daughter, Laura, had been killed, and the people meant to protect her had failed at every turn. When Tim first asked the police to search the field, they simply told him she was probably just a runaway. When her body was found, they showed little urgency to dig deeper. He decided that if no one else would fight the fight for these girls in this field, well, then he would. Tim would then go on to find Texas EquuSearch, an organization that has since helped find more than 400 missing people across the country. So, there's light out of this. But Calder Road was always personal to him. He returned to that field for years, walking the land, tending to the makeshift memorials, and vowing not to rest until someone was held accountable. And yet, for decades, this case went nowhere. The two unidentified women, Jane and Janet Doe, remained mysteries. Tips dried up. Police suspected a local and maybe someone familiar with the terrain. He was a worker, a ranch hand, a neighbor. But one name just kept coming up in all this. Clyde Hedrick. He lived in the area in the 1980s, and he was known to have been with at least one woman, Ellen Beeson, who later turned up dead. He served prison time. He allegedly made strange, offhand comments, but they could never tie him to the four women of the field. Not then, at least. And so, the crosses went up. One for Heidi, one for Laura, and two for the women no one could name. And the field stayed quiet. For a while.
Could you imagine working at the convenience store down the street where everyone who uses the payphone goes missing and is found dead? Do you think they had an employment problem during those
I think
years?
after this, definitely. I would not
Where
work
it's like,
there.
At least two of the victims found dead up the road stopped here. Immediately before vanishing and probably then being murdered and dumped in that field.
And again, you could see the lights of this convenience store from the field. So that means from the convenience store, you can most likely see at least some of the field. So the entire time you're out looking at this graveyard.
Yeah.
Just knowing no one was caught for this.
Yeah, I'd be quitting my job. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I wouldn't work there.
It's just a random thought. I'm like, oh my God. Could you imagine working at that convenience store where this shit keeps going down?
I mean, this is just the dangers of working at like areas like that and in general, just late night convenience stores or gas stations. You never know what's going on.
Right off the interstate and remote areas.
So now we're going to move into some of the investigations that surrounded this case. As the bodies piled up across the I-45 corridor, so did the questions. But answers? Those were in short supply. By the late 1980s, law enforcement could no longer ignore that something deeply disturbing was happening along this stretch of highway. Yet, they were working in silos. Scattered police departments, each juggling their own caseloads, jurisdictional boundaries, and limited resources. In some cases, departments just didn't communicate at all. A missing girl in Galveston might not be linked to a body found in League City, even though they were only 20 miles apart, and the victims shared eerily similar profiles. Investigators were overwhelmed, to say the least. Often working with little more than bones and scraps of clothing, the Calder Road victims, for example, were so decomposed that determining the exact cause of death wasn't even possible in some of those cases. There was no DNA testing yet, no surveillance footage, and no cell phone records. Most of the bodies were found months or years after the killings, and evidence left in the elements had been ravaged by time, weather, and animals. It was like trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle where half the pieces had been burned. Still, some leads emerged and some suspects rose to the surface, and for a moment it seemed like justice might be within reach. So now we're going to talk about some of those suspects. First one up is Michael Lloyd Self, aka the Wrong Guy. The first major arrest in these crimes came in the early 1970s. Way too early, as it turns out. After Rhonda Johnson and Sharon Shaw disappeared in 1971, police zeroed in on Michael Self, a 20-something-year-old gas station attendant in Galveston. He was a loner, he had a bit of a record, and seemed like someone who could have done it. Under intense pressure, and later, as he claimed, under the coercion of threats, he self-confessed. His confession was full of contradictions and outright impossibilities. He said he dumped the bodies in a place that didn't match the actual discovery site. He got timelines and physical details all wrong. But prosecutors moved forward with this anyways, and he was convicted and sent away for life.
Once again, it's not shocking that police antics
are just trying to rush this close.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying this guy didn't do it, but it seems...
find the bad guy. The community doesn't like fear. The community doesn't like unrest. We need to find a bad guy, and we need to convict him. It's like, yeah, you probably know this isn't your guy. That's why you're trying so hard to force a confession out of him that he doesn't have.
Just a picture.
He looks like an actor.
I thought the same thing.
He looks like somebody I've seen in something.
Well, as always, pictures will be on the social media or on the video.
I don't know. He's just got that face, I guess, but yeah, of course. It's just, again, not the first time and not the last time there will be a case discussed among the true crime sphere where the cops just decided, you know what?
This is the guy.
This guy could fit the vibe. Let's just nail him.
Yeah, he's creepy enough.
Yeah. You can't arrest people for being creepy.
I think we've referenced that already.
Oh,
on
yeah.
this show.
I'm sure we have multiple times. It's a good reference.
It is. Hoodwinked again. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Years later, the police chief who led the interrogation with Michael Self was found guilty of corruption in unrelated cases.
And probably in that case, too.
Self's conviction began to look more like a rush to close a case than a true resolution. However you want to look at it, Michael Self died in prison in 2000, having always maintained his innocence. To this day, many believe that Michael Self was not the killer, and that whoever murdered Rhonda and Sharon was never caught. But we leave that up to you. You can do your own research. That's pretty sensitive stuff. We won't touch exactly on that. This is not a solved case, so who knows?
That is interesting that he was convicted, but they still consider it an unsolved case.
That's just Rhonda and Sharon.
Yeah.
So remember, those aren't even really technically considered part of this. That's just tie-ins to the Calder murders are really what is the big thing is the Texas killing fields. That's what earned the name. That's where that whole thing comes from. So
never going to drive down a strip of highway again. You're going to, everybody's always looking at those little brushes of trees and little marshes, those little patches of landscape along the side of the road. Usually it's like, oh, it's so pretty out here. Now.
No, don't stop at an
now
interstate
you will,
gas station
Now
alone.
you will be driving, looking at those fields and forests like...
Especially at night.
Oh, yeah.
So next we move on to Edward Harold Bell, the Confessor. Bell was a convicted killer and sex offender arrested in 1993 after spending more than a decade on the run in Central America. So he's already got quite the rap.
Get him, boys.
Get him for all of this. While in prison, he began writing letters. Lots of letters. In one of them, he claimed to be responsible for what he called The 11 Who Went to Heaven, a reference to 11 young girls that he murdered in the 1970s along the Texas coast. The names he listed, they all matched real victims. Girls like Debbie Ackerman, Maria Johnson, and Colette Wilson. He described details that weren't public, and he claimed it was all part of a crusade to stop himself from molesting again by murdering his temptations. What a fucking jackass.
I was gonna say, yeah, because that logic tracks.
What a just horrible piece of shit.
What's better than being a child molester? Being a child murderer. Like, are you fucking dumb?
Oh my god.
We know that you're crazy and disturbed,
Yeah.
but are you also fucking dumb? Oh my god. Yeah, get him, boys.
Yeah, get him. This one's
Get
good.
him.
Get him.
And you know what? Other boys in jail, once he's
get
there,
him.
you get him too.
So to say the least, it was horrifying, it was detailed, and it sounded pretty credible. But again, there was no physical evidence and no charges were ever filed. And some believe that Bell was just an aging narcissist trying to leave this big legacy of fear behind.
Yeah, and once again, wouldn't be the first time that somebody who was already locked up for some other murder charge was taking credit for murders that weren't theirs and
It happens all the time
Yeah.
in these cases.
trying to expand their rap sheet, so to speak.
Yeah. Still, he remains one of the most credible suspects tied to the earliest wave of killing Fields victims. He died in 2019, taking whatever real secrets he had to the grave. The next suspect we have is Robert Abel, or AKA the Quiet Neighbor. For the Calder Road victims, one name surfaced again and again: Robert Abel. He was a former NASA engineer who owned the horse ranch adjacent to the field where the bodies were found.
Yeah, it's a red flag.
Right there.
Yeah, like you own the property next to this abandoned field where everybody keeps showing up dead.
Hey, at least you got to look into him, at the very least.
Well, yeah. Well, and I'm wondering, like, how come this man has never made a police report? Like, hey, I seen some sketchy activity going on in the field next door to me.
Well, he owns a ranch, so I mean,
Yeah.
it's a big piece
There's
of
someone
land.
out there at night.
He might not be like on that side of his
Yeah.
property to be viewing into there all the time.
It's just, it's another coincidence that's like, of all of the people who happened upon human remains over there, he wasn't one of them. All the people to maybe see these girls at the gas station last, or to anyone who could have seen someone in that field, like it's just, of course you didn't. Of course you didn't see anything, because you're the only person who could have.
Tim Miller, Laura's father, became obsessed with Robert Abel as a suspect. He thought Abel's behavior was strange and that he was evasive during questioning, that he just felt off. Abel was cooperative, though. He let police search his property and he submitted to questioning. He even passed a polygraph test, which you can take that with a grain of salt, and no direct evidence ever linked him to any of the murders. Still, the suspicion lingered. Some people just give off a feeling, and in a case with no answers, even a feeling can become a lead. Abel died in 2005 when he was struck by a train.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's a little out of left field.
Yeah, that is not what I was
I'm
expecting.
not laughing at his death.
That was shocking.
Whether it was an accident or intentional has never been confirmed, and in the minds of many, his name remains in that kind of gray area. Not guilty, but never quite cleared.
Yeah, again, we can't arrest people just for being creepy.
Exactly.
And maybe he was creepy, maybe he was guilty of something, but not this.
Right. I think a lot of these people probably had some sort of, even if it wasn't brought up, maybe besides Robert Abel. I will say, he does give me the kind of feeling where he might have just been a neighbor and he was kind of
It's almost like
an
wrong,
awkward guy.
yeah,
and it's like a
wrong
lot of
place,
people-
wrong
yes,
time,
yes.
and he's just socially awkward, and he's like, no, I'm a loner and live on this
I mean,
ranch
he's an engineer,
by
like,
myself.
yes,
yeah,
yeah,
he's like,
like
no,
he-
I'm like, he's like, this is not, trust me, I don't go out to hook up with girls. Like, He's like, I
But-
just tend to my farm and myself, and I just live a peaceful life. I don't want to talk to the cops any more than I have to.
Yeah, I mean, but who knows?
Yeah, there's a difference between being a little awkward and not cooperative.
So the final one we're going to talk about is the one that won't go away, or Clyde Hedrick. We mentioned him a little earlier.
Good old Clyde.
Hedrick or Hedrick, however you want to say it. So Clyde Hedrick, I guess I'm flipping it. I'm going with Hedrick now.
All right.
I'm sorry to throw everybody off.
Keep him on the toes.
Never let them know what your next move is. Then there's Clyde Hedrick, a man whose name had become synonymous with suspicion in the Texas killing fields. Hedrick was convicted in 1996 of involuntary manslaughter after the body of a 28-year-old Ellen Beeson was found in a field. He had been the last person seen with her, and his explanation? She died during rough sex, and he panicked.
Yeah, that sounds legit.
Yeah, investigators weren't buying it.
I wouldn't either.
Years later, while serving jail time, Hedrick allegedly made jailhouse confessions to other inmates, hinting that he was involved in more murders, including the women from Calder Road. He lived in the area at the time of the murders, he worked odd jobs, and he had a criminal record. And perhaps the most compelling, he was Tim Miller's neighbor.
So he would have known those girls, maybe known their routes or known to
What they're
tail
up to,
them.
at least. Tim believed, and still believes, that Hedrick is the one who murdered his daughter, Laura. In 2022, Tim took Hedrick to civil court, filing a wrongful death suit for Laura's murder, and he won. The court awarded Tim Miller $24 million and found Hedrick liable for Laura's death. So while not a criminal conviction, it was the strongest formal acknowledgement yet that someone may had finally been tied to the Calder Road victims. Hedrick, now free after serving his sentence, denies all involvement. But his name remains front and center in nearly every serious conversation about the killing fields.
And again, like, we hate to get all political, but whether he was involved in anyone but his ex-girlfriend, like maybe that was the only death he was involved in. He murdered his girlfriend and probably raped her first because he claims she died during rough sex and he just panicked. Yeah, okay. If you cared about her, you would have called the cops and explained the situation right then and there. You would have been freaking out. You wouldn't have been hiding a body. But, like, you probably already messed with her more than just killing her. Why are you out of prison at all? It has only been, like, 40 years since then? 45 years?
Yeah, I don't know if I have the exact date right here, but it wasn't too long.
Yeah, I think the prison sentence...
Not long enough for a murder, at least.
I think the prison sentence for murder should just be life.
Yep.
You took someone else's life, prison takes yours.
Yep. End of story.
Like, the only exceptions are when it's involuntary accidental manslaughter. Like, when it's like you got in a car crash that wasn't even your fault. It was their fault, and they died, and now you're like, oh, but, like, I technically killed them. You shouldn't go to jail for that. But if you're a murderer...
Yeah, I'm here with you 100%.
Like, I don't understand why so many people who should be in prison get out after, like, 5 years, 10 years, 30 years. But we're like, oh, there's immigrant children here. Let's get them the fuck out.
Yeah, we got bigger problems going on.
I'm sorry. Continue.
Despite these suspects, some promising and some probable, there has never been a single arrest for the Calder murders, nor for many of the other women found along I-45. Investigators have long believed more than one serial killer operated in the area over the years. The 1970s victims have different signatures than the 1980s ones, and the 1990s brought new methods, new victims, and eventually a few convictions. But for too many of these cases, the truth remains just out of reach, a whisper in the grass, a shadow at the edge of the field. But there are some families and those who never gave up on this legacy in getting justice. In every story about tragedy, there are those who refuse to let it end quietly. In the Texas killing fields, that fight has been led not by detectives or politicians, but by the families left behind. And at the heart of this fight is Tim Miller. In 1984, his 16-year-old daughter, Laura Miller, walked to a payphone near their home in League City and vanished. Tim's life split into a before and an after that day. He reported her missing. He searched the area, he pleaded with police to take it seriously, but nothing happened. Like so many other parents before him, he was told not to worry. She probably ran away, she'll turn up. Weeks passed, then months, until 1986, a pair of boys on dirt bikes found her remains in a remote field less than a mile from her home. The same field where Heidi Faye had been found 2 years earlier. Tim had suspected all along that the field was important. He begged authorities to search it after Heidi's body was discovered, but they didn't, and it took almost 2 years for them to find Laura. That failure didn't break Tim Miller, it transformed him. He channels his grief into action and founded, like we said, the Texas EcuSearch, an all-volunteer organization dedicated to finding missing persons. What began as a father trying to give meaning to his daughter's death has become a force that has helped solve hundreds of missing person cases around the world. He searched swamps, deserts, forests, and abandoned buildings, often side by side with law enforcement. His group has been responsible for thousands of recoveries, many of them high profile. But no case is more personal to him than Laura's. Tim returns to Calder Road often, and he maintains the small wooden crosses that mark where the 4 women were found. He advocates for memorials, he talks to the media, and after all these years, he's still pushing for answers. And he's not the only one. Families of other victims, some who never got a body back, others who never even got a name, have kept the memory of their daughters, sisters, and friends alive through community activism, support groups, and outreach. They've appeared on documentaries, demanded cold cases be reopened, and organized vigils at the edge of the fields where their loved ones were taken. In a landscape where killers slipped through cracks and families refused to let their daughters slip into silence, they are the reason the Texas killing fields is not just a story of failure, it's a story of endurance. Last thing we're going to talk about is some new breakthroughs in this case. While some of the earliest cases remain unsolved, the 1990s brought a new wave of horror and finally some answers. In 1996, 13-year-old Crystal Jean Baker left her grandmother's house in Texas City after an argument. She never returned. Her body was found under a bridge along I-10 where she had been strangled. The case went cold, but in 2010, a DNA hit linked her death to a man named Kevin Edison Smith, a Louisiana truck driver. He was arrested, tried, and convicted in 2012. It was the first clear conviction tied to one of these killing field deaths. And in 1997, three more girls vanished in quick succession: Laura Smither, Jessica Kane, and Kelly Cox. Years later, another man, William Reese, was arrested for unrelated crimes, and during interrogation, he confessed to the murder of all 3 and led police to their remains. He was convicted in 2022. These arrests proved that multiple killers had operated along the corridor over time. Not one serial killer, but several. In 2019, 2 major breakthroughs came via science, specifically DNA genealogy. The 2 unidentified women found on Calder Road, Jane Doe and Janet Doe, were finally given names: Audrey Lee Cook and Donna Prudhomme. Audrey was a Houston area mechanic, and Donna was a mother from Louisiana. Their identities had eluded investigators for over 30 years. Their breakthroughs was thanks to partnerships with genetic genealogy experts, labs that could analyze DNA and track down distant relatives through online databases. This same technology actually helped catch the Golden State Killer and is now being used to give victims back their real names, or names at all. But naming them was only step 1. Their killers to this day remain unknown. So what really happened in the Texas killing fields? There are theories, lots of them. Some say one killer is responsible for clusters of murders. Others say multiple serial predators operated independently, drawn to the area's seclusion and opportunity. Many point out the similarities in victim profiles, like we said, young girls with brown hair all alone when they disappeared. Others note that victims varied too widely to be the work of a single person. Was it a local with intimate knowledge of the terrain? Or were the killers truckers and drifters, passing through unnoticed? Was it someone hiding in plain sight? We may never know for sure. But here's what we do know. The cases aren't just cold. They are active. Investigators, local, state, and federal, continue to review evidence, run DNA tests, and follow up on new leads. The FBI has said it plainly. They will not give up. As one agent puts it, we will come get you. For more than 50 years, the Texas killing fields has been a place of mystery, grief, and heartbreak. It has become known as a symbol of resilience, of families who never stopped fighting, of communities who chose to remember, and of a justice system still chasing the truth. Some of these cases now have names and faces again, and some families now have graves to visit. Some killers have even been caught. But many questions still echo through the fields of I-45. Who else is out there? What did they get away with? And will the fields ever give up the rest of their secrets? If you have any information related to the Texas killing fields or a missing persons case in Texas, contact the FBI or your local law enforcement. Someone out there knows something, and maybe, just maybe, the next tip could finally solve this mystery. So, who do you think did it?
I think that there are multiple killers, and I think that there's probably some in each of those kind of categories that you mentioned. Like, there's probably some like Clyde, who was convicted or at least got lost that one court case, who were neighbors, who were locals, who had the opportunity to maybe watch and stalk these girls before taking and murdering them, maybe knew when they'd be alone to strike. I think some of the killers were probably just random drifters, criminals, or truckers or travelers coming through, like our other convicted guy, who he wasn't from Texas. He just happened to be a trucker, probably happened to be there for the night, and he was a messed up dude and saw some young girl alone and decided to act. And then he figured, I'll be gone in the morning anyway. Dump her in this field, poof. I think there are similarities among all of them for sure. I mean, same area, most of them being like young women or girls, victims, but we do have differences too. Some of them were going missing alone. Some of them were going missing in pairs. Usually the alone girls were a little older, maybe older teenagers or young adults or young mothers.
And a lot of the causes of deaths weren't even able to be verified.
Yeah. Some of the ones going missing in pairs were 13, 15, a little younger. Some of them were strangled. Some of them were shot. Some of them we don't quite know how they died. I think that the Calder Road murders were probably all one person.
I think that was the work of one person.
And that was their dumping spot.
And I think that was Clyde.
And I think that maybe those earlier murders that you mentioned, that before it really kind of became this, oh, hey, there's something happening here moment, those first couple groups of young girls, I think that might have been the same person. And then once cops started catching on, or a different killer started acting, things shifted. Unfortunately, no matter where you are, young girls and women alone in a remote area, doesn't matter on the state, it could potentially be a dangerous situation. And there are creepy, criminalistic guys everywhere. So as much as it would be like a cool little movie true crime moment for it to all connect, I do think a lot of it really is just coincidence, and that it's a major interstate highway. There's a gas station exit with all these fields and farms right off the highway. Very remote area, lots of fields, forests, marsh and bayou type land. There's the coast right there. I mean, I hate to say the word good because it's horrible, but pretty good spot for dumping bodies if that's your fucking business. You know, like, not that I would ever try to harm somebody, and if I accidentally did, I wouldn't fucking hide their body. I would call the cops and call for help. But if I was ever gonna hide a body, that's the kind of place I would go. It's like, okay, somewhere somebody won't think to check. Some abandoned lot that's overgrown and marshy off the side of a highway behind a gas station. Like, who's gonna be walking over there? Done. So I do think that's just a kind of big coincidental factor in the location. And same with the victim profile all being the same. It's like, you could also just look at all murder cases. And a lot of the victims are women or young girls. Not all. Obviously, if you look at every single one, you're gonna have more profiles than just that. But I'm willing to bet it's still a pretty decent percentage that fits that profile. So it's like, I do think we're dealing with just a handful of coincidence here. And that it was a handful of killers with a handful of motives. Maybe some of them were stalkers, maybe some of them were rapists, maybe some of them were a little bit accidental and then freak out and then just dump it and run. I think there was probably a lot of different cases going on. And unfortunately, this area of Texas probably does feel cursed because they're like, why? Why do these girls keep showing up or going missing here?
Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely think it's multiple people working or serial killers working this same area. And it's most likely just a population thing. I mean, the population density around this area is probably quite high. So a big interstate, lots of, like you said, prime areas to hide a body. It's just all this kind of leads into a unfortunate situation. I do think that the Calder Road murders, my personal opinion, was Clyde Hedrick. The fact that he lost the civil case court to that, and he buried Ellen Beeson in that, not in the same field, I don't think, but in a similar field type situation.
And by the time he buried Ellen there, the other murders in that field were already starting to get names. So he probably was like, well, I can't go back there again.
So I think, unfortunately, that just shows that this whole thing is the work of multiple people throughout the decades. And I don't know what that says. That's fucked up.
Yeah. And again, I think it's coincidence. I don't think it's like some big mafia, like it's all connected and they're all working together as multiple serial killers. No, I think that they all have their own motives going on and their own thing. They might not even know that these other murders are happening or these other bodies have been found. They figure this is a good spot to leave the body. There's an interstate right there for a quick getaway. And it just so happens that this has happened in this one spot a little too many times for comfort to where it's not unnoticeable anymore. Like we said at the beginning of the episode, every state's got its place. We've got MLK Drive in Cleveland. Not so much anymore, but I know when we were kids, I used to hear stories all the time about how it's like, oh yeah, it's like that's the body dumping road over there. Got to be careful going under all those bridges and underpasses. Like somebody will get you, or you might smell something over there. I don't know how many cases were involved in stuff like that, but I mean, yeah, we've got our own little street with notorious body dumping fame. So I do just think it's a horrible coincidence of multiple serial killers or even one-off killers just happening upon the same area.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. Just multiple people working throughout the decades. And I don't know what that says about this area. Maybe it could use some more police enforcement around here or something. I don't know what the answer or solution is, but
hopefully these days there's more like like video surveillance on streetlights and things like that maybe they didn't have in the 70s. Maybe just more streetlights in general. Like, it's just something to make the area feel a little safer, a little less desolate and remote and quiet and dark, hideable. Just brighten it up, put a couple cameras in, and perhaps less things will start happening, and you won't necessarily need to have 45% more cops. Like, but, and it sucks because it's like, we don't want to victim blame. We don't want to be like, well, you need to protect yourself out there. But unfortunately, you do. Like, it just, the truths that be, people. There are crazies out in this world, and you gotta protect yourself.
All right, well, that's it for the story. That's it for the mystery. Now we're going to move on to the date night debrief.
Date night debrief. One of these days, we'll nail down a little song or something.
I don't know if we will.
You're like, I actually hated that. Thank you. Please.
So,
Please don't do it again.
My question for tonight is, what is your go-to I'm drunk and hungry food?
You tell me. What do I ask for when I'm drunk? I don't fucking know. I know I like snacks when I'm drunk, but I don't know what.
No ideas. Like, you're at a bar and you're like, man, I want food. What are you craving when you're drunk?
Pizza.
That's fair.
Greasy pizza, like bad pizza, like not some gourmet, good quality stuff. But
you're talking
like,
about Sorrento's on Royal Caribbean, aren't you?
Yes, I'm talking about Sorrento's, but also like concession stand pizza.
Yeah.
Like classic sheet pizza where it's just extra greasy and like the cheese is falling off and it flops down in your hand and you have to fold it like a taco.
Yeah.
That kind.
Mine's breakfast diner food.
Oh, that's a pretty good joke.
Yeah. 5 a.m, you've drinking all night, you're still wasted. You walk into Denny's.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't go to a Denny's. You end up at a Denny's. That was one of my favorite little comedy bits. I don't even remember who that was.
I don't remember what that's from.
Yeah, but it's true.
So there you have it. Our drunk food is pizza and Denny's.
Yep. Greasy pizza and
A Grand Slam.
a Grand Slam diner breakfast.
That's a question. So do you have
Yeah.
any personal talks or personal
Some
talks?
personal talks.
Some personal updates or any free talk?
Let's see. We have been pretty busy.
We've been so busy. I've been doing so much
We've been
editing.
very, very busy. It's the peak wedding season. We've had tons of weddings and engagements and boudoir sessions lately, just drowning in photo and video edits.
But we love it.
I would not trade it for the
No,
world.
This is the stuff we love to do.
We are so busy. I started driving a motorcycle.
That's right. Yeah, she got her temps.
I got my temps.
She's been riding my
have
Navy.
been riding.
Because I got a 1979 Honda CM400A. That's a fucking mouthful.
Yeah.
It's
It's nice though. I mean, it's like an old historical bike,
Yeah,
but
it's a
it's
very
like fully
classic
restored
vintage
and,
bike.
and held up and taken care
It's
of.
pretty good. She's running.
Yeah,
but
she's
yeah.
just a little bit squeaky, a little bit rusty, but like, she's old.
Yeah, she's old.
She holds her own.
But yeah, so we've been riding together. That's
Yeah,
been fun. That's
we've
a good
been
thing.
riding. It's been a new little hobby on our very limited free time.
Yes. Because we can squeeze it in. Get
Exactly.
Like a 20-minute
It's like,
ride
oh
in,
yeah,
and
just
okay,
like
we
we'll
did
just go
something.
for a quick ride, grab some coffee, come home. Like, then we can get to work editing.
Yeah.
I think that's about it.
Yeah, I don't have too much.
We had our 4th of July backyard barbecue
Oh,
party.
yes, that
that
was
was super
fun.
fun. We got to see a lot of friends,
Yes.
and I love that. Like, I'm getting to that age and that part of life where I'm like, man, I'm so stable in my routines and in my work and in our marriage that I don't see my friends as often as much. I mean,
Yes.
when you're young,
I mean,
you
it's
spend
just
every
life.
single day with your friends, whether at school or after school, but as you get older, you see them less and less. Even if I still talk to some of them every day, like you don't see them. And like, so not only is it nice to be able to see friends, but when you get to see that many people and everybody's there at once, it's just like, oh, this is so great. Like, it just made me feel good to see everybody. Made me excited for Christmas because we're going to have a big Christmas party
Yeah.
this year with everybody too.
Movie recommendations, real quick. We
Oh,
saw
yeah.
Novocaine and Heads of State. Both of them were pretty good. We
Yeah.
also saw Wolfman.
It was okay. I won't
standard
say
horror.
yeah. I won't say it's bad, but I'm not gonna like say it was fantastic.
No, it was not some acclaimed movie. Just
it was
very
all right.
standard horror.
It was all right.
So if you're looking for anything to watch this weekend or after the podcast, watch one of those. They were all fantastic.
Oh yeah, Novocaine and Heads of State, especially.
Oh my
Like they were
Jack
both.
Quaid's in both of them.
Yeah,
so.
and those two are both like action comedies.
Yes,
so
good, just popcorn. Flicks.
yeah, very, very like feel good. You don't have to care that much movies, but they were really good. They were really fun. Got some good Idris Elba, that guy's in everything.
Oh yeah.
And
John Cena.
Yeah, John Cena, he's everywhere too.
And they're pretty good together. I liked it.
Yeah, he's everywhere and he's nowhere.
This is a sample of a possible second podcast or extra podcast we might be doing. Just a little hint.
Yeah, keep your eyes and your ears open.
Yes.
You might get to hear more movie talks from us.
So that's about it. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and be sure to come back every other week for a brand new episode and a brand new mystery.
We hope you all enjoyed today's story and mystery. And don't forget, you can email us love letters and episode ideas. If you are emailing us an episode idea, please put it in the subject line so we can find it easily. mysterydatepodcast@gmail.com.
Also, be sure to share this podcast with your friends or even your enemies. And if you like the show, please share this in any way possible. All the little stuff helps, and just getting our name out there in this growing period is the most important part. So anyone you know that likes mysteries, that likes true crime, that watches those millions of documentaries on Netflix, send them this link, let them watch this episode, and let's get this thing growing. We appreciate it so much from you guys. And head to mysterydatepodcast.com as well for pictures and more sources and further reading on this episode if you like that, or to just get in contact with us.
Who knows? Your voice message could make it onto the show.
That's true. Yes, you can leave your voice message there, and we might listen to it in a future segment once we start getting a lot of those coming in. That'd be fun.
Yeah, and while you're at it, don't forget to follow us on social media at Mystery Date Podcast for updates on the show and on our life.
That's all, so be safe and have a great rest of your day or night.
And remember, every good mystery deserves a date. Bye.